1010 is right around the corner, and we've got a whole bunch of things we may get to see tomorrow at the big event. And there's going to be a lot of great coverage here and elsewhere. But we've got today a very special guest. Alexandra Merz, Tesla boomer mama herself, is joining us. So let's get into it. Yeah, I'm Brian. Welcome to Future Asa. So, Alexandra, you are lucky enough to get one of those first round tickets. You'll be there with your lovely husband. Tell him I said hello. And yeah, what are you expecting to see?
So first to the ticket, I was crying for it, right? You know, when I was still in my post shareholder vote fame, I
Yeah.
used that shamelessly to cry in a post to Elon saying, all I want for Christmas is a ticket. And he said, sure. So I knew very early I would have a ticket. I made sure that Travis, Axelrod IR, remembered that I have a ticket. And yes, so I was very lucky, but I was also shameless. You know, I feel a little bit guilty for pushing it so hard, but that only lasts so long, right? I'm super excited to go there tomorrow, and I feel like this is one of the Tesla events you don't want to miss. I think actually that those that will watch it from home may actually be more privileged to see all of it than us. Because, so you asked me what I expect. I think we will see cars driving by themselves. I hope we see the new robotaxi, the purpose-built car. But I do believe we will see, and we saw obviously a couple of short videos of cars driving around in Burbank in that Warner Brothers area. I think we will see Model 3s, Model Ys, Model X's, whatever, doing demo drives without drivers. And that is a little bit like going to the Olympics or going, watching a football game. You're there, it's great because you have all that mood, but you don't see as well as the people that are at home on the screen watching, how the cameras are strategically positioned, and will follow this event much more. If you're test driving one of those driverless cars, well, during that drive you don't see anything else, right? You're in the car, which is great, but you're missing out on other actions. So I think actually don't be sad if you are not going. I think you will actually have a great event on the screen.
And what are you actually expecting to see at the event?
So I do think we'll have demo drives. I think we will see the purpose-built robotaxi. I don't think we'll see any of the new models promised for 2025. I don't think we'll see the Roadster. But I do think we will see the bot,
Hmm.
and bot with new functionality. So we robots will be we robots looking like cars, and we robots looking like humanoid bots.
Okay. So, what would it have to take for this event, in your view, to be a disappointment to you? Like if there's no drives, if there's no vehicles, or if there's drives
Mm.
but it's in Model Ys, what would be to you where you'd say, that wasn't what I was looking for?
Oh, I wouldn't think that drives in a Model Y would be a disappointment at all. I think they should put any type of Teslas there as a demo because I mean, obviously, anybody having now 12.5.4 and maybe newer versions soon should know that the functionality works on any type of four wheels sold by Tesla, right? I'm not even calling
Yeah.
it cars anymore because it's now fully functioning bots. And so, what would it take for me to be disappointed? I would be disappointed if we don't get a clear business model. So, if you saw those invitation, it says we can get it at 5, check-in is at 5:30, and then the speeches start at 7. So I don't know what's happening between 5:30 and 7. I mean, I don't know anything. I'm just guessing, right? But I do hope that the 7 o'clock speeches are about how will this work for Tesla owners who want to participate with their cars? Is there going to be a first period where it's still supervised? but already a network. Can we enroll into that network now? How much money is Tesla going to make out of this? Um, how do they see production ramping up for the $25,000 car? Where do they expect to get licenses? Is it cities? Is it states? Is it international? What is the deadlines? What is that horizon? So all that I hope to hear, and I would be disappointed if you don't get anything of that. But other than that, like I said, I don't expect any of the new models to be shown there. I don't expect the Roadster to be shown there. So I'm not in a position where I'm after cars. I'm actually much more after the business model.
So we see a lot of times the whole buy the rumors, sell the news. We'll see times where after deliveries or earnings, it'll meet expectations. It might beat expectations and the stock still goes down. Pretty uncommon that it actually goes up. We have seen that happen too. So it's not guaranteed. And the same is true with all the big events, Battery Day, Autonomy Day, even Investor Day. It feels like investors don't get it. How big does this event need to be to prevent a sell-off the next day on selling the news?
I actually don't think the stock ran up, right? I think we're around 240, 250 now. I don't consider that having had a run towards the event. I think most of the financial analysts out there with their prognostics about seeing 3 models out there and whatever, they will be proven wrong. So if you bet on that, you obviously might have on Friday morning the bad surprise that there were not 3 new models shown. But again, I think the stock is actually rather flat for the last couple of weeks and short months. And so I don't see why there should be a sell-off. Either you believe into this business model and you understand that we're transiting finally. I mean, I felt we should have been transiting a long time ago, but finally towards a subscription model where car margins and revenues are not, and a number of deliveries are not the key matrix anymore. I do hope that is what analysts take off it. I have no idea whether they will. I mean, I feel always they understand so little. I know Pierre Ferragu is invited. I know Dan Ives is invited. So we have the better ones clearly with us. And I hope they can convey to their community, what a shift in business model this is. But it will take a while for institutions to understand that, to put it into their spreadsheets, that they will do nothing without spreadsheets, and to plot it over the next couple of years. And let's just say that the times announced for the purpose-built robotaxi is 2026. Or let's just say that they expect to go international in 2027. Or let's just say that they say, okay, we're going to start with Austin, and then we'll slowly get to, I don't know, whatever other city and what other city. And it just feels like crumbs, right? It feels small at the beginning. So all these would be things where I do believe institutional investors would still not make the switch. If I hear Sakonaga this morning, what was it, yesterday morning on CNBC, saying that Tesla has a lot of catching up to do with Waymo. I mean, I don't know what planet the poor man lives on, but that's it, right?
It's Waymo's approach looks good in a vacuum. They're driverless, yes, but they're heavily supervised. I can supervise a car, so it's an approach that's obviously showing issues of scaling. If it was solved, it would be already everywhere, and their vehicle cost is outrageous. There's problems.
It
We
is.
get it. We get it. Now, in the past, you've talked about how institutional investors are underrepresented in the pool of current Tesla shareholders.
They
Um,
still are.
they still are. What a company this size, what percentage should we be seeing, and where are we at, and what's it going to take to wake them up?
So the car maker with the most institutions is GM, 80% institutions. I hope dearly that we don't get to 80%, because it makes you very, very dependent on them, right? You're actually dealing with them on a day-to-day basis. I mean, GM is a long story of failures in the EV development, and yet does share buybacks at the moment where, so this is the typical reaction you will have when you have institutional investors, because all they see is that through a share buyback, the number of shares obviously decreases, and so every tiny little share enhances, and that's their reasoning, right? That just shows how short-sighted it is and how it is not at all linked to a certain strategy. These are also the type of investors that you can bluff for quite a long time with PowerPoint presentations. I mean, just remember how long GM was able to maintain the belief that they were a major player in the EV segment, right? Their whole battery model didn't work out, and yet they were still fooling Wall Street. I was actually laughing about, I published yesterday the list of the votes for or against Elon's pay package, and Goldman Sachs voted against, and Goldman Sachs is a huge backer of GM, right? So when you know all that, you just understand that you don't want to get to an institutional overweight or heavy overweight like GM has. But yes, we are underweight. So what does that mean? Well, it means that index funds, or not the ones that track exactly the index, but that are close to an index, are underweight Tesla. They don't like Tesla, they don't believe in it. So instead of having, let's say, 2.5%, what they should have in the index, they only have 1.5%. And this 1% difference that I talk about is billions of money, because these index funds are huge. So while I don't want us to get to an 80% institutional holders, I'm very happy that, and I think that is what saved our shareholder vote, this high level of retail investors we have and all this passion of retail investors we have for it. I do believe that those institutional investors that are currently underweight compared to their index will eventually move up. So what does it take for them to move up? It takes that they understand the business model, that they have confidence in that business model. And that's why, for me, this business model idea, this presentation of the business model, is much more important than the car. Now, if they are still on the old business model, that you need a new car and that will be 25,000 and then the margin will be 5,000 and the profitability will be whatever, if as long as they are on that model, the shift will not happen, because they just cannot fathom that there is a real tech component, there is a real software as a service profit line to be developed. They have to get their spreadsheets out and they have to sit down and then project completely different revenue lines and profitability rates. And that I can only tell you on Friday whether I think Tesla will have managed to convince them, or whether it's still too far for them to grasp.
It's crazy to think. I was just sure that when the stock got down near 100, that would be the opportunity they were waiting for to finally get in. I think the exclusion from the S&P 500 for as long as it was led too many companies to too many investment firms, too many pensions to just stay away from it. And the same with the credit rating, which you fought so hard to get it done. I would go back to your first point saying you were not just lucky, but pushy. I would say you worked so hard that it was, if you weren't there, it would have been insane. I mean, crazier things have happened, but I mean, let's call a spade. You earned it. And we thank you for all you've done. So guys, there's going to be a part 2 of this coming up tomorrow, but I want to hear comments from you guys. What are you expecting from 1010? I know we've talked about this a lot, but it's upon us. So let's figure it out and stay tuned for that. See you guys tomorrow.